Hi, this is Beverly, and I'm going to be sharing with you how I'm making a tomato paste for my meatloaf. So, tomato basil from Mrs. Dash. I've already added some in there. I don't measure real well, I just kind of do it till it looks right and feels right. I've taken some Thai basil and I've washed off the leaves and tore them up and put them in there. This is what it looks like so far. And I'm going to add a little bit of garlic to it just because, well, you gotta have garlic in life. Then I'm going to take some onions, which I cut up onions the other day for another recipe I was working on. And I'm just going to take those onions and add a little bit of onion to it just to give it a touch of a spice. Maybe a touch more. Okay. So you know what your flavors you like, and so it's up to you to figure out, hey, I like this flavor or that flavor. Um, so I'm not going to add a lot of water to it, but you can add water by to help increase the liquid, or you can add a broth if you're using the tomato in something like a chicken recipe or something like that, and broth works really well. So I'm going to pause for a minute and I'm going to go blend this up and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I now have some really cool tomato saucy stuff to add sauce um, to my meatloaf, and it did not it's not going to be as bad as using canned. So now to make a meatloaf, you're going to need your meat, which I'm doing turkey and hamburger together. You're going to need to have your binder, which I'm going to use the quick oats. You're going to need to have your eggs or an alternative like applesauce or bananas. And then any flavorings you may want to add to it. You can add some onion, depending on how well your sauce turned out. And then, of course, you're going to want to have your liquid. So this is what my liquid looks like. So I am going to go ahead and throw it all together into a bowl, and then I'll be right back. Actually, I figured I'd go ahead and let you see. I cut open the turkey. This is what the turkey looks like, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And then I'm going to cut open the hamburger again, and hamburger, and we're going to go ahead and just squeeze that out in there. I'm using a total of 2 pounds of meat for this. I like buying the packaged meat because then I know that my packaging is good. I was raised by my mom and my great grandmother, who taught me that when you're baking, you use your hands. So when mixing this, you use your hands. Now, you can wear gloves. Make sure you get the powder free. Or you can wash your hands, which you use warm water and you put soap and you wash your hands. Now, I shouldn't have to give you a lesson on how to wash your hands, but you want to make sure you get every finger. If you have long fingernails, get under your fingernails, okay? I have long-ish fingernails, and so I'm going to be getting underneath those. And some people say you sing the happy birthday song, happy birthday to me. Okay, and then you rinse your hands really good. You want to make sure that you get all the soap off of them, because if you don't, you're going to kind of get a surprise after you eat your meatloaf. Use a clean towel or a paper towel to dry your hands afterwards. And you're going to want to repeat the process after you get done mixing everything in together. So, at this point, whoops, you're hearing me open drawers. I'm going to use a measuring cup so that I can keep track of how much liquid I put in. This is 1/3 cup, so I'm going to put in probably 2 of those right now as a starting point for my base, and we'll see how it looks from there. My hands, eggs. I want to do 2 eggs. Ta-da, 2 eggs. And yes, I can do it all one-handed, but I don't normally. Okay, so I'm going to go in now and start mixing it. So your consistency with your turkey and your consistency with your hamburger is two different consistencies. So if you're using two different meats, you want to make sure to get in there and get them really well mixed. Otherwise, they're going to cook at different temperatures, and you may end up having one half of it taste one way and the other half taste a different way. I know people that add sausage to their meatloaf. I know people that add tofu instead, which I have no idea how to cook with tofu. So don't ask me. I have people that do ground chicken instead of ground turkey, which I checked, and that actually had a higher sodium count than the turkey did. I was kind of surprised. So once you get it all mixed together, you're going to have a pretty decent consistency. It's going to kind of hold together. The oatmeal is going to help it can hold together that much more. If you add a little bit too much oatmeal, then add a little bit more liquid. If you add a little bit too much liquid, add a little bit more oatmeal. Those are some of the secrets on how you can get your stuff to the point where it is easy to use or easy to stick together and can taste good. Be careful. Different binders work differently. So if you're using crackers, you're going to want to make sure that your crackers are ground up really well. I've actually thought about using Cheerios to see how good that would work. I may end up doing that in the near future. So as you can tell, my meat looks pretty much the same consistency, same color. So that means I've done a really good job at mixing it all together. It looks like it would bind okay now without oatmeal. So I may want to add, and I will add another thing of liquid. So I'm going to end up with 3/3, 1 cup. And then I need to wash my hands because I am not touching my tablet or anything else with raw meat on my hands, because that is how you get cross-contamination, and you want to stay away from cross-contamination. It's not a good thing. When you're cooking, if you have to cut up vegetables, cut your vegetables first, and then if you need to use your cutting board for your meats, that would be the last thing on your cutting board, at which time your cutting board would then be cleaned in the dishwasher if you can, and if not, then sanitize it with a bleach water solution. So, ta-da! So I'm going to add one more of this, and then I'm going to add a handful of oats, because I already know the consistency. I'm not going to want a lot of oats, just because. So I'm going to do probably about a handful. Sprinkle that in there, and it's got a good covering on my meatloaf. I may want to add some more seasonings. So I have a steak seasoning from Mrs. Dash. So I think I'll go ahead and add some of that to it. Smells really good. Okay. And I'm probably going to add a couple more onion, just because, well, I like onion. Not sure what I did with my spoon, so I'll get a new one. You can also caramelize your onions and add them on top. You can use your sauce and make a caramelized topping, adding brown sugar or something like that. Mushrooms would be a really good thing to add to the top if you like those. I have family members who are allergic to mushrooms, so that's not necessarily a good additive to add. I'm going to go ahead and finish mixing this up and getting it into my little pans, and I'll show you them before I put them in the oven. So hold on a sec. Real fast, I wanted to tell you that I did end up having to add a little bit more of the oats, but this is about the consistency you're going to be looking for. So it's going to hold together fairly well. I could probably add a couple more if I wanted to, but this seems to be a really good point. So let me go ahead and wash my hands and get the pans out. One sec. Now you have a couple of choices for dishing it up. You could do it in a basic loaf pan. You could do it in a square pan. You could do it in foil cupcakes in cupcake pans. Depending on the pan you use will depend on your cooking temperature. I usually cook my stuff at about 300, between 300 to 350. If you're cooking it in a smaller pan, you may want to lower your temperature a little bit, but you want to make sure that you cook it all the way through. And part of that is getting a meat thermometer. Hey Google, at what temperature is meatloaf done?
155 to 160 F.
155
Here's a summary from the website thespruceeats.com. Cook your meatloaf to an internal temperature of 155 to 160 F. The temperature inside the meatloaf will rise. To find out more, look for the link in your Google
Hey
Home
Google, stop. Sorry about that. My phone Google picked up too. So we're going to want to go between 155 and 160. And you'll do that with a meat thermometer. So what you're going to do is you're going to take and put it in your pan. You do not want it to be overfilled. You're going to get grease in there, okay? So one of the things you want to do is make sure that you have room for grease. And what I normally do is I pat down the sides. So I mound it up, pat down the sides, and there you go. So that should give it enough room for the grease to cook out. I will then take this pan and put it on a cookie sheet in case anything comes out over the pan, and it will catch the cookie sheet. Something you can do is poke little holes here so that when the grease comes out, put it on the cookie sheet, put it on a tray that's just above, so any grease that comes out will be caught in the cookie sheet. I'm not that ingenuitive, and I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. The other thing is what do you want to put on the top of your meatloaf? So my meatloaf, I can put cheese. I can put more of the sauce that I made. I could mix the sauce that I made with cheese. I could put onions. I could put mushrooms. I could make a gravy, a brown gravy to go with it. I told you my aunt did a ketchup and brown sugar mix that she would put on top of hers, which was amazing when I was growing up. Really, it depends on what your taste buds are. So be aware of the people that you are cooking for. If they have any allergies, I would not serve it to my family because there are people with allergies to mushrooms if I was to put mushrooms in it. The other thing is the nice thing about doing small pans like this is that you have one for dinner. And I would say this would serve 2, maybe 3 people, depending on their appetites. And then I have 2 that I can turn around, put foil on it, throw it into the freezer. And then I have a meal that I can pull out and fix myself. I would serve this with mashed potatoes or maybe a sweet potato, a quinoa, I think I said that right. Brown rice might be good. So meatloaf is, for me, it's a feel-good mom and pop type food. You know, the old mom and pop restaurants you used to go to, and it was like, oh, such amazing food. So what else might you do with meat from a meatloaf? Well, I don't have enough to make a third meatloaf. So maybe instead what I'll do is I'll turn it into a meatball. And it's easy enough to do a meatball. You just keep patting it back and forth, and voila, you got a meatball. And I can put that in the last of my foil packets. Ta-da! I have a meatball. And you could do a meatball, and you could do sauce in there, and make it a meal just in and of itself. So I think that's it for now. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it. I'm going to cook everything. And if I can figure out this technology, I'll come back and taste the meatball in front of you. So what hand did not touch my my meat? So looks like you're going to get stuck with me while I wash my hands again real fast. Make sure to clean up after yourself as you go. The nice thing about cleaning up after yourself is you're not scared to come back to the kitchen in the morning or later in the day. And it keeps bugs away. And if you happen to have guests that stop in to check on you out of nowhere, then hey, your kitchen looks nice. So I'm going to go ahead and hit pause, and we will be back for the tasting.